Welcome to the Fair Income Department. It's round 3. Today we've got a very, very simple task. We're deciding if the outrage over the weekend's footy stories, are they real? Are they a little bit ridiculous? I'm Chris Danks. Across from me, unable to hide, is inner Queenslander wearing his maroon, Liam O'Loughlin. We are the Fair Income Department. It is round 3. We've watched all the footy this weekend. We're going to go through some of the biggest stories. Before we get into it, big man, game of the week, as we always say.
Ooh, that's a tough one. For entertainment value, maybe the Sunday afternoon game between the Tigers and Bulldogs, just because both teams are pretty ordinary.
Yeah.
Roosters South, I was there on Friday night, Allianz Stadium. Nice crowd. Bit of tension into it towards the end, but both teams played pretty well. So yeah, I probably enjoyed that one the most in terms of a quality standpoint.
Roosters deserving winners?
I think so, yeah. Yeah, they played pretty well. Hargraves and Smith were enormous off the bench, eh? Hargraves just continues to be the gift that keeps on giving for the Roosters, even in his, probably...
How old is he?
33, I think. Still one of the best props in the comp. Unreal.
Yeah.
Unreal.
I thought I was actually going to be quite controversial by saying Dogs, Tigers. I loved it. I don't go for either team, so it's easy to watch, and I wasn't sitting in like 36, 37 degree heat on that hill. I don't know if anyone saw it on the hill. You had the light pole, and then like people sitting in a line just trying to get in the shade because it was that hot. No, it was brilliant. But we should probably stick with that because, I mean, we can't avoid it. Whether it's real, whether it's ridiculous, we can get into that. The Tigers halves, quite the issue they have. Third straight loss. They're at the bottom of the ladder. That's not too crazy. I guess we always thought they were going to be bottom 2, maybe bottom 3 in a very good week. They only really came alive very late. First hour, I would argue most of those players had never met each other before. And then Luke Brooks and co turned it on for a little bit.
Yeah, for 60 minutes, that was pretty disgusting, to be honest, from the Tigers. Their attack was very, very ordinary. Brooks and Adam DOUEIHI looked terrible. Looked like, as you said, they'd never met each other before. John Bateman was the only one that looked like he was going to give him a bit of spark. And Brent Naden took a pretty good intercept as well. Bateman was doing everything individually. He's not the prototypical second rower. Doesn't exactly, run holes or anything. Kind of just does it all himself. But yeah, the halves were very, very ordinary, I thought. In that first 60 minutes, and Brooksy was looking like he was in for a shellacking from the media, and then he turned it on towards the end. But it wasn't enough that the Dogs were able to hold on.
But he barely, in that last, what worried me was in that last set of 6 where they fumbled it. He barely touched the ball. And you think you're half, when you're down by 4, you've got a little bit of momentum going. You'd want the ball in his hands, but I don't know if that's part of the Tim Sheenius. But he barely touched it towards the end, which surprised me.
That final set that the Tigers had when they needed to score a try to win the game, and they had to go probably 85, 90 metres to do it. They had 4 hit-ups from forwards.
4 settlers.
Yeah, 4 settlers, and then a trick play that didn't fire for whatever reason. So, yeah, it was pretty disappointing. From the Tigers halves, obviously Brandon Wakeham came on.
It was good.
Midway through the game. He was really impressive when he came on, playing against his former club as well. Obviously let go. The Dogs have opted to stick with Kyle Flanagan for this year and let Brandon go. Came off the bench, replaced David Nofaluma, who probably wasn't overly impressed to get hooked mid-game, but he wasn't exactly setting the world on fire either. Adam DOUEIHI switched to fullback, Charlie Staines to the wing. Tim Sheen's kind of hinted that that's what they might lean towards moving forward, which probably leaves Noffa in Rezzies. And
go back to the Storm, brother.
Charlie, yeah, I know. He was going well at the Storm, wasn't he? Easy to look good in a Melbourne Storm outfit. But, yeah, I was really concerned with Luke Brooks' performance yesterday in the halves. He did, obviously, as we said, spring to life late. But when the game was on the line or the game was in the balance, he was very ordinary. There was one stage he got the ball on last tackle and just practically stood still. He's just still so sideways. He's such a good runner of the footy, and he's got so much pace. He's probably one of the quickest halves in the comp. Doesn't run the ball, and when he does, going sideways. It's not helping them out a lot. So it will be interesting to see what Tim Sheens does do next week.
The contract stuff aside, because he's worth whatever people sign him for. That's great. I don't really care how much money he makes. Do you think West Tigers can win any of their, and we'll get through what's coming up for them. It's not good. Do you see them winning a game anytime in the future?
No chance. Dogs were pretty ordinary yesterday. They dropped a lot of ball as well. They probably bombed 3 or 4 tries as well. Just the last pass or two weren't sticking for the Dogs. They could have easily been up by 30 or 40 at half time, Canterbury. And then they kind of fell away in the second half just with the heat as well. They were doing a lot of defence. But yeah, they were ordinary, the Dogs, and the Tigers were even worse. Tough draw coming up for the Tigers. You want to run us through who they've got?
Okay, we'll just, after each one, we'll say if they're going to win. The Storm with Munners back.
Munster back, Hughes out, kind of cancels itself out. You say Storm don't lose 2 in a row. They did. They're certainly not going to lose 3 in a row, and they're certainly not going to lose to the Tigers.
The Bronx.
No chance.
The Eels.
No. God, no.
Sea Eagles.
I think you skipped the bye there, which might be still a tough task for the Tigers.
They're not going to lose to the bye.
Manly, no, not the way Manly are going. If they had a couple of injuries, maybe, but Manly are flying at the moment.
I never got my pen license. I can't read what I've written. The Panthers.
No.
Dragons.
No.
Really?
Nah. Not unless Ben Hunt's out. I couldn't see them beating the Dragons the way they've gone in the first 2 rounds across 150 minutes instead of 160.
What if it becomes Coruscant's team? You got him. The pack's not bad. I know we keep coming back to this.
Honest.
Yeah.
A lot of what they are doing well in attack is coming off Appy anyway. It's not coming off Brooks or DOUEIHI.
Oh, did you see that moment in the first half? Coruscant took the quick tap, whether that was a good play or not, I don't know. But burst through, and then there was just no one there.
Yeah, he just fumbled it as well.
I don't know if he fumbled it or if he was just shocked that there was just no one around.
Yeah, so I guess the real or ridiculous question is, I guess I'll put it to you, should they drop Brooks or DOUEIHI after the first 3 rounds?
Drop Brooks.
You think so?
I don't see what...
Leave AD at 6? Because I don't know who else you would play.
You'd have to.
So, yeah, because...
Also, I don't hate Staines
at fullback. He's busy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think he's their best option, but...
No, but I don't know who is either. So, yeah, if one of the halves that started yesterday was going to go, which they should, whether they move AD to fullback and keep Brooks there, but Wakeham has to come in after the way he came off the bench yesterday.
AD's just too good with the ball in hand, especially on the right edge. Runs a good line. He's he's the size of a big centre.
Yeah. That's the other option. They could move him to the centres as well. So he's versatile. So he'll probably be the one that gets moved because for whatever reason they love Brooksy. Yeah. But if I had my coaching hat on, I think Luke's well overdue for a stint in Rezzies.
He needs a fresh start.
He does, doesn't he?
So there's going to be heaps of that chat this week. I think whatever happens, it's more than fair. There's something going on at the Tigers, and it is not right. Also, if it's like, I don't understand what they're going to do in terms of coaching philosophy. They brought Tim Sheens in, right? He's grooming Benji. But it's not like then if they go, oh, well, we need a new coach. Well, Tim Sheens is then going to be GM, overlooking Benji. So, he's around forever now. So, if anyone goes, it's going to be a player. It's not going to be a coach.
No, they've got a plan in place. The plan doesn't look like it's working at the moment, but it's only short term. They're looking long term, I suppose. But with the players that they've signed in the off season, they've got to turn around sooner rather than later.
So we had in the preseason, didn't have the Tigers as the spoon, as we said, but we did have the Warriors who won against the Cowboys on the weekend, and I thought they looked excellent.
They were very good, the Warriors. I've been very impressed from them across 3 rounds, really. They won in round 1 against the Knights, which is neither here nor there. It is the Knights. Looked good against the Roosters in round 2. Defensively, really, really strong. Yeah. And then against the Cowboys, who were one of the premiership favourites before a ball was kicked. They were really impressive on Saturday, the Warriors. I think they had 5 or 6 forwards run for over 100 metres compared to the Cowboys who had 1 maybe. Concerning signs I thought for the Cowboys, and some really good signs for Andrew Webster in his first year as head coach.
We can get further into it, but just off the bat, real or ridiculous, have the Cowboys bought into their own hype?
I don't know if Todd Payton's the type of coach that will let them do that, but certainly their performances could allow for people to question whether they have. You see it a lot. A team kind of comes from nowhere as a bit of a surprise pack. And I tipped them for the spoon last year and they finished in the top 4.
Yeah, nice one.
Might have them for the Warriors this year. Maybe I'm the omen for those teams. But yeah, you see it happen when a team comes out, surprises a lot of people one year, the next year they tend to fall off a little bit. I still think they've got enough quality players that they're still going to be in the top 8 come the business end of the season. But at the moment, there is a little bit of concern for me about the Cowboys. Jeremiah Nane, across the first 3 rounds, has run for a grand total of 105 metres, which is not great when he's playing 80 minutes every week as well. And, you know, he's just re-signed. I know you say with Brooks as well, you don't want to base a player's performance on, you know, how much money they're earning, but he's been pretty disappointing. Tamalolo the other day was not where, you know, people expect him to be. Ruben Cotter as well had a very rare, quiet night at the office. There's, you know, still plenty of room to grow for the Cowboys. Obviously, Scotty Drinkwater's out at the moment.
They've got a few out, don't they? Hicker's out, suspended.
Yeah, they've got Luciano Leilua still out as well, indefinitely. Yeah. Helam Lukey had his first game back from an ACL. It was great to see him back on the field. He's such a good player. Him and Nane obviously going to be the long-term second rowers there at the club. Mitch Dunn still to come back from an ACL as well. So they've got Cattle to come back in. But yeah, it's just a matter of getting things rolling and getting their big guns to step up for me.
I just don't see how. So they obviously lost to the Bronx week prior, and I didn't think they were horrible that game. They weren't great. I still think they're a top 6 team at least. I thought the Warriors were just great. Like Adam Fanua-Blake was fantastic through the middle. There were shades of vintage SJ there. I'll say that any time. He slightly runs across and takes on the line.
Yeah, and then you just have flashbacks to that 2011 prelim. Yeah, he just got a boot of the GF against Melbourne.
I forget everything. I thought they were really good. Tamari Martin also quite good.
Yeah, he was great. Yeah, he's been really good, Martin.
Cowboys will be hammered because so many people thought they were top 4 material, and maybe they still are. I don't think this loss changes too much.
Nah, not for me either. I think, you know, anyone that's saying they're going to miss the 8, sack the coach, and any of that kind of rubbish, that's ridiculous. But yeah, they do have some things to work out. Todd Payton mentioned after the game there seemed to be a bit of a lack of trust, which is not ideal. That, you know, they were so up last year. Maybe obviously they had some guys go to the World Cup, probably just a bit slow. Although saying that, they've come out of the gates pretty fast in all 3 games and then managed to give up leads. So yeah, that might be something for Todd Payton to look at.
I thought Chad had a pretty all right game.
Pretty all right.
All right, just all right. I think he's been electric of late. And then
electric's not a word I would use to describe Chad.
He is. No, he's a leader of men up there. And then I didn't see much from him yesterday. But I guess you could say that about most of their players, apart from Reece Robson, who was very, very good.
Reece Robson's always good. Yeah. Great player.
Good decision to let him go, Dragons. Yeah, love what you were doing there.
Yeah, really smart. Yeah.
This is almost a part 2 for last week. NRL concussions. What's the latest?
So obviously, since we last spoke, obviously Kalen Ponga was the main one coming out of round 2, and he's going to be out for a little while. The NRL have now brought in an 11-day stand-down period. Yeah. So if you suffer from a Category 1 symptom, which is, you know, instability on your feet, stumbling around, that kind of stuff, if you're completely unconscious, obviously you're rubbed out. Any of those Category 1 symptoms, players are now going to be stood down for 11 days, which I think is a great move by the NRL. 100% on board with that. Hame Sele had a really, really tough one on Friday night, first set against the Roosters. He's got to be one of the most unlucky players in the NRL. Just with every time he gets back on the field, something else pops up. So best wishes to Hame in his recovery. But yeah, 11-day stand down, great move from the NRL. But there's something else that's come up over the weekend.
So I think a lot of us heard the thought bubble yesterday on Sunday about the NRL do they maybe need to introduce mandatory headgear. Probably not a great idea to be talking about it in the news overlay of Kalen Ponga, who's had more than several of late and wears headgear all the time. Doctors have come out on Twitter, which is weird, so you never really know, and saying that act doesn't actually make any sense. Headgear's not going to change anything. Dr. Liam O'Loughlin, what's your take?
I certainly don't profess to be a doctor. I don't want to, bag Alana Ferguson. She's on there giving her opinion and doing a job, but she was dead wrong in what she was saying yesterday on Channel 9. And plenty of people say it as well. You see parents and, people on social media that are perhaps a little bit ill-informed headgear does not prevent concussion. It's been proven that, if anything, it can, increase the risk. The NRL physio, who is, one of the, real fan favourites in rugby league circles on social media, he's come out countless times and said that it doesn't. All the science is saying that it doesn't prevent concussions, and it's there really just to help with either lacerations or bruising. Any calls for headgear to be mandatory from the junior level all the way up to the NRL is ridiculous, because it's scientifically proven that it doesn't prevent concussion.
I think we'll be talking about this next week and maybe the week after as well. But I get it. People are concerned, as they well should be.
Yeah, I know when I was growing up playing, I wore headgear.
Yeah.
Most of my teammates wore headgear when you're kids, and a lot of kids still do wear headgears, and that's up to the parents to decide. And obviously there are reasons why kids or NRL players should wear headgear, and it does help with other things that I mentioned, but concussions is not one of them.
On to slightly lighter matters, unless you're a Parramatta Eels fan. Ryan Matterson, serving a 3-game ban from the grand final crusher tackle, opted to take the ban instead of paying $4,000. Makes a shed load of cash. However, it's not really as cut and dry as that, really, because he was on like a little bit of the clock to make that call last year.
Yeah, so obviously a crusher tackle in the grand final, lost to Penrith. He's got 48 hours to make a decision, and obviously there's probably a lot of emotions going on there. The season's just finished and he's got to decide, do I really want to pay $4,000 or a 3-game suspension? Heat of the moment, Matto has decided to take the 3-game suspension, changed his mind pretty quickly, but the NRL said, you've made your bed, you've got to lie in it. So it's left Parramatta without, one of their key forwards for the first 3 rounds, and now of course all the heat's been placed onto Matto, even though he hasn't been playing, because they're 0-3.
Yeah.
And he hasn't been out there because he made a quote unquote selfish decision, which he knew probably a few days later that he made the wrong call, and he's copped it for the last 4 or 5 months because of it.
It doesn't hurt that they've also got Sean Lane out as well.
Yeah, that doesn't help. Matty DOUEIHI hurt his knee on Thursday night, and they've also lost some pretty key forwards as well. Ray Stone, Murata Niokore, Isaiah Papali'i. There's 3 players out of their forward pack from last year that are gone, and then add on top Matterson. It's not ideal early in the season for Para.
Did you see that Dave Riccio came out and said that he needs to earn his teammates' trust again?
I did see that. I don't buy into that. I think, look, at the end of the day, he knows he made the wrong. I'm sure he knows he made the wrong decision, and that's why he tried to backflip pretty quickly. And for whatever reason, the NRL didn't let him. Buzz Rothfield came out on radio this morning. Dylan Browns came out publicly and said, look, as much as we joke about it, he was kind of rushed to make a decision when there's probably a million things going through his head. So, look, I'm a big Ryan Matterson apologist. I know a lot of people don't like him, but I reckon he's a really good player. He speaks well. He seems like such a good boy. He does great work in the community, all of these things. One little error. I know there's this narrative that he's a selfish player or whatever for, some things that have gone on in other clubs perhaps, but I think pretty harsh for, anyone to be criticising him too much and saying he needs to earn back his teammates' trust.
Yeah. For his sake, I hope he has a big weekend.
100%. Up against the Panthers as well. Grand final rematch. Good game to come
back
in.
That's the thing. If he has a good game this weekend, all is forgiven.
All is forgotten. 100%.
Also, I don't know a lot of Parramatta fans, but I don't know anyone who's like that sooky about it. It feels like it's just come back up again out of nowhere. Yeah,
it's coming back up simply because they're losing. If they were 2-1 or 3-0, which they very well could have been, because if you look at all 3 games, they should have beaten the Sharks. Yeah, 100%, and they probably should have won against Manly as well. And round 1 was flip of a coin against the Storm. So they very easily could have been 3-0 and no one would have even realised. So, yeah, I think the hysteria around Ryan Matterson is a bit ridiculous. For mine.
Okay. So Origin. Now, we spoke last week off camera about, is it ever too early to talk about Origin? We both know it's not.
No, never.
You've got your Queensland shirt on today, but we're going to be talking about New South Wales. The Blues probably, on paper, should win. Like a lot at the moment, they're in a bit of a golden period, but it's just not happening for them.
No.
In your mind, who's in, who's out?
Well, I think I mentioned during pre-season that I'm pretty high on Matt Burton, potentially replacing Jerome Luai this year in the halves. bit hard to gauge. Penrith have only played a couple of games. Luai wasn't great the first round, bounced back in the second round. Burton's been solid without being spectacular for the Dogs, but they're still working on some combos and that there. So I reckon that one's up in the air. Josh Adokar's obviously going to come back in.
Yep.
But the big two for me come in the forward pack. Me and Buzz, we're agreeing a lot lately. I saw he wrote a column, I think yesterday or today. Hamole Olakau'atu from Manly, been fantastic the first few rounds for the Sea Eagles. Been a bit of a rocks and diamonds player, I suppose, the last couple of years. Had a real breakout year in 21 when they made the finals. 22, bit hit and miss, as some young forwards can be, but he looks like someone that's primed for an Origin debut. And the other guy I really like is Keon Koloamatangi from South Sydney. I'm surprised he hasn't played Origin yet. He's so consistent.
He's been part of the squad though, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's been like 19th, 20th man, there or thereabouts. But if you look through the forwards that New South Wales had last year, who's on the chopping block?
Sims.
Tarek Sims, I think, played one, maybe two of the games last year. He's not playing Origin this year, surely.
Gerbo?
Everyone loves him. Manly are winning. I think it'll be hard to drop him, but if he's going to play, I don't see the merit in him coming off the bench, so I think he's got to start probably at prop.
Yeah, okay. Crichton, you'd have to assume, won't.
Yeah, even though there are some reports coming out that he's possibly looking at a return in maybe round 8 or 9, I couldn't imagine him with, missing the first chunk of the season and everything else he's got going on. I think Origin would be the last thing on his mind, and I don't think he'd be rushed back into the team.
I don't like the chances of the Saifidis.
No, I don't think so. I think they'll be hard pressed getting in this year just with, Junior Barlow, Payne Haas, Campbell Gillard, Gerbo, Isaiah Yeo. There's your middle forwards there, I would think. And the good thing with someone like Keon, if he does get selected, is that he's played plenty of middle for South as well.
Was Madison part of it last year?
Madison played one game. I think he played the series opener.
Okay.
But then I don't think he featured after that. Wouldn't think he's going to be there. And the big one for me, I know Penrith fans will be coming at me with their pitchforks, but I know Liam Martin shouldn't be in a Bush jumper. No,
Why?
He's not for me. He does it he's a solid player. He runs hard. He tackles hard, but he just doesn't have the impact. And if you look at the Queensland forwards and who they could potentially have in the team, they've got some really exciting and explosive players.
Yeah.
You look at Jeremiah Nane, obviously played last year, and we know what he's capable of, even if he's been a bit behind the 8 ball to start this season. David Fafita, if he gets picked, I know he's a rocks and diamonds kind of player, but he can individually do things that other players could only dream of. Jaden Sewer's been fantastic early in the season for the Dragons as well. So they're real explosive kind of forwards, and Liam Martin isn't really that kind of player, and I think Keon or Hamole should 100% be in the team ahead of him. Whether he does get selected and they fit both of those guys on the bench remains to be seen, but I'd be looking at Keon and Hamole instead.
Do you not need someone like Martin? So he's got an incredible motor. He's good for the first 20 minutes. He doesn't shirk anything. I think he's a pretty good defender.
I don't think so. He was pretty solid in the World Cup as well, and he does great work for Penrith, and should be there or thereabouts in the Blues discussion. But for me, if we're looking player to player, I don't think he's going to offer as much as the other guys I've mentioned.
Okay, so in your mind at the moment, how many players do you think will be replaced? Adokar definitely back in.
Adokar back in for Tupou, probably.
Yeah.
I would say Fox and Brian Toto will be the wingers for New South Wales. Luai Burton, flip a coin, I suppose, at the moment. The other one's the utility role, if they are going to roll with the utility. Like, I know Freddie loves Jack Wyden, but Nico Hines is Dally M medalist last year, can cover a lot of positions. I guess in Jack's benefit, he's a bigger body and can probably play in the forwards too. So I would say Wyden probably keep his spot, but the forwards is where it's going to be up for grabs. Obviously, like Payne Haas and Junior Barlow will be there, Gerbo will probably be there, Murray and Isaiah Yeo will be there, but the other few spots are up in the air, I would say. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting 6 to 8 weeks to see who puts their nose in front. I'm
interested to see what they do. It's interesting to say that about 14 with Whiten, because I think they need Whiten as 14 because that then frees up. They've got 3 or 4 guys who could play the 2 centre roles. Like, Trell's got to be one of them.
You would think if they're fit, Trell and Turbo should
Well, that'll
probably
be it.
the centres, yeah, but they've got so many to choose from as well, don't they, New South Wales?
Campbell Graham just sitting there, just being like, really happy for everybody.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, played in the World Cup and that, and he's probably not going to be in the New South Wales team.
So minimum 5 changes, you reckon?
Yeah, 4 or 5 I can see for the Blues. Yeah, definitely. And then hookers, the other one, Appy and Damien Cook. I think Appy would be pretty clear in front, but if the Tigers keep going like that, and South, start playing some good footy, or Reece Robson keeps going the way he is, there's certainly options there for New South Wales.
And then finally, players spraying trainers. There's been a bit of it. Foz was our last one after he got hooked on the weekend. And I would say possibly inspired the Titans' comeback win.
Yeah, so it was an interesting choice on the weekend. Tanner Boyd went off for a HIA, passed his HIA. When he went off, Jaden Campbell came on, slotted into the halves, and then obviously when Tanner finished his 15-minute period, Justin Holbrook wanted to get him back on the field. He's replaced him with Kieran Foran, which is interesting when you've signed an experienced playmaker and you're subbing him off in the middle of a game. Not usually a good sign. Came back on in the second half, orchestrated a shock win over the Storm, but he wasn't too happy when he got subbed off Old Foz.
I'm all for, I don't think it's that big of a thing. Like it's that trade-off, right? So you go, we want access to players, we want to be able to see everything. Sometimes you see stuff that...
Or hear stuff.
That it's not that great. But it's not life-changing. Like if someone to say, I won't let my kids play footy now because we saw that. Well, I mean, that happens in every sport. It's not that big of a thing. And I would say it's far less annoying than maybe the Clemmer stuff.
Yeah, well, that's where I was going to go to, I suppose. Justin Holbrook after the game said
Shouldn't have let me see your notes earlier. Then. That's what I did.
He said he had no issue with Foran's response, and he said he's a competitive guy. He's playing in the halves. He wants to be out there for 80 minutes. And Holbrook said if I was in his position, I would have done the same. But last year we saw Dave Clemmer playing a struggling Knights team and trying to inspire them to a rare victory. Yeah. He's been pulled by the trainer and gave him an absolute gobful, and then got sanctioned by the club over it. So I don't think the Titans are going to be going that route. But what do you reckon? Do clubs need to sanction players for spraying officials or, club staff during a game?
I don't think, if they're going off the field, it's a back and forth, fine with it. Like if they're both adults and everyone else is fine with it, that's great. If it's like hand in the chest kind of stuff, very different scenario. And let's say if, like after the game, if they keep going on with it, then sure, sanction. I was surprised that Clem got sanctioned. I didn't think, it wasn't great, but I don't think it was that big of a thing. I can't see Foz anything happening with him.
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of the Clemmer thing, and then obviously not too long after he was gone from the club. So there might have been other things going on there as well that we don't know about. I'm not on board with any sanctions for players that are blowing up at trainers or club staff during a game. It's a pretty gladiatorial sport, so copping blows to all parts of their body, so they're doing things in the heat of the moment. Can't really blame them.
Yep, I'm with you. Play on. All right, that's it for us. We will see you next week.